Good evening and welcome to News First's primetime news right here on TV1. You're joining me, Deshan Gonavala. As always, we have the very latest from right here at home and around the world. But as always, first, let's have a look at your headlines.
Sri Lanka's COVID-19 caseload surpasses 300,000. A consignment of AstraZeneca vaccines to arrive in the island on Saturday. Harin Fernando questioned for 5 hours by the CID. Teachers, principals and university lecturers continue strike. Island-wide protests held even today. A national consensus is vital for the progress of the nation, says former president.
Now that you've had a look at your headlines, let's head into your lead story for today. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa has said Sri Lanka had settled a $1 billion bond yesterday. The president tweeted that he is committed to taking the country forward and creating a strong economy while battling through the COVID pandemic. Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa has met with the Agamaha Pandita Venerable Dudampahala Chandrasiri Thero, who is the Mahanayaka of the Sri Lanka Amrapura sect. The Prime Minister's office said that the Prime Minister had called on the Mahanayaka Thero at the Tapowana Meditation Centre in Rajagiriya. During the meeting, the Mahanayaka Thero had highlighted the need to resume academic activities of children and to take steps to protect them. Now, tributes continued to flow in from several quarters, including the Mahasangha, over the demise of Mr R. Raj Mahendran, the chairman of the Capital Maharaja Group, on Sunday.
While expressing our sadness over their condolences, we pray for the chairman of the Capital Maharaja Group, Mr R. Raj Mahendran, to attain the bliss of Nibbana.
R. Raj Mahendran Mahatmata නිවන් සුව ලැබේවා කියලා ප්‍රාර්ථනා කරනවා. එදා මේ රටේ මාධ්‍ය
Just like he created a change in the media industry, he was a person who contributed to environment-related activities. May his soul rest in peace.
සප ලැබෙන්න කියන ප්‍රාර්ථනාවත් අපි මේ අවස්ථාවේ කරනවා.
The Constitution says that we have the right to speech, but we can express our opinions only if media institutions gives us a chance. I am grateful to Mr Raj Mahendran for the platform he provided for environmentalists to voice their views.
He rendered a great service in securing test playing status for our cricket team in 1982. The cricketing authority didn't have funds back in the day. Players had to travel on buses to play test matches. During such an era, we know that he spent his own money in obtaining the facilities required by the cricketers. He had various views. He always believed in change. I am not aware of his political views, but I believe it would be correct to consider him as a turning point in the television and radio industries. He set a precedent by showing that the funds earned by a person can be used to serve the people and not just for living in comfort in Colombo. I pray for a person of this caliber to be reborn in this country. Sri Lanka can achieve success if there are a few people like Mr Raj Mahendran. Just as Aristotle said, a person who served as an ideal citizen will depart by leaving an indelible mark. An ideal citizen will leave behind memories. That is why Mr Raj Mahendran chose a difficult path to protect democracy and rendered a yeoman's service as a citizen to strengthen it. Although he could have moved towards success easily through his businesses, he faced those challenges. Mr Raj Mahendran has departed us by leaving behind strong memories of that struggle.
අරගලය පිළිබඳ ශක්තිමත් මතකයන් ඉතුරු කරමින් තමයි රාජා මහේන්ද්‍රන් මහත්මයා නික්ම යන්නේ.
Now, island-wide protests were held even today, organized by teacher and principal trade unions, urging the government to resolve the existing salary anomalies. Roads in the Kuliapitia town were flooded with protesters this morning. The protest march, which commenced from the Kuliapitia town hall premises, passed through the Hettipola, Kurunegala and Madampe roads and returned to the Kuliyapitiya town centre. Another protest organised by the teachers and principals unions demanding a solution to the existing salary anomalies was held in Mahiyangana today. The group marched on foot from beside the Zonal Office of Education in Mahiyangana to the Mahiyangana town. This protest was held in Hangwalla with the participation of teachers and principals attached to schools in the Homagama education zone. We would like to tell the government that we are not ready to tolerate anymore. We are not asking for a piece of paper. We are not asking for a committee. We are clearly asking for a solution to the issue of salary anomalies. A protest was carried out by teachers and principals in Galle today. The protesters marched from the Mahamodara and Samudra Mawata and then staged a demonstration opposite the Galle bus stand. A protest was also held in Ahaliyagoda with the participation of teachers and principals. A heated situation arose when the police attempted to move the protesters away from the main road.
Yesterday we observed that there was a disparity between the decisions made by the cabinet and what was approved. This makes it clear that they had acted in this manner to hamper our trade union action. They acted purely with the intention of deceiving teachers. Minister GL Piris has said that a decision was made to appoint a cabinet subcommittee. In another occasion, they said that the subcommittee was already there. After that, Veeravansa said that he doesn't belong to the committee and that they were only invited to be present to discuss and resolve the matter.
ඉස්සරහට කරනවාද කියන එක මේ රටේ ජනතාව විනිශ්චය කරයි.
It is wrong to raise the salaries of doctors and those attached to services supplementary to the health sector. This is not a time to hand out pay raises. It is unfair for teachers to demand pay raises. In Great Britain, people are only paid half their salary on the days they don't work. It's a sum between 40% to 70%. In the USA, state employees are given only 40% of their salary on the days they don't work. But the people don't take to the streets. Sri Lanka is not in a similar state. State employees and the retired employees are still paid in full. So it is unjustifiable to protest and incite the risk of creating new COVID clusters. This is not a time to be demanding for higher salaries. It's a time when salaries are deducted globally. Please let us know when these teachers and principals and the people of this country should demand for their salary anomalies to be fixed. But those in the government who are shameless to blame the teachers and principals did nothing when the cabinet led by the President and the Prime Minister presented a cabinet paper to import brand new vehicles for Parliament, spending 45 to 50 million rupees per vehicle.
We want
to warn the protesters that a teachers cluster could emerge with the spread of the Delta variant, at least for a short period of time. Engage in other means to win your rights without resorting to clustering and engaging in rallies. By tomorrow, the students and the parents will take to the streets. They will demand for their children to be educated. This is like the story of the person who tried lighting a cigarette from a burning beard. This is clearly a political conspiracy.
Meanwhile, university lecturers who withdrew from conducting online lessons today in objection to the Kuthalawala Defence University Bill had organised silent protests in several universities. The protests were led by the Federation of University Teachers Associations, or FUTA. This was the scene at the silent protest against the Kuthalawala Defence University Bill held in front of the Open University in Navala. The protest at the University of Colombo got underway at the law faculty.
The universities under the UGC are becoming just like the SLTB. The other universities are just becoming like private buses. That is the same way in which private buses started. At that point it was not to destroy the CTB, but finally the private bus industry grew. As a result, it destroyed the CTB. This is what is happening now within the university system.
Another protest was held in front of the University of Galle. The protest opposite the Peradeniya University was held at the Galle junction.
If the government does not want to heed this message, we are ready to bring together the university lecturers and all others and move forward until we win this battle.
Teachers at the Rajrata, Ruhuna and Sabargam universities also protested against the Kotalavala National Defence University Bill. Protests were also held at the Jaffna and Eastern universities and at Pambai Madu in Vavnia today.
They did not discuss this matter with any of the lecturers or university student unions, not even in parliament. They are trying to militarize the education sector of the country. In my view, these moves will sabotage the free education system of the country. The bill was first drafted by the Defence Ministry when our government was in power, but we did not present it to Parliament. That is the difference here. Even we have identified certain contradictory sections within the bill. As the SLFP, we have already appointed a committee to study this bill in detail and report to the party. This committee comprises of special representatives of our party, our Youth Front and our Graduates Association. We even discussed this bill during the ruling party meeting. During this discussion, we identified that certain sections in the bill need to be amended. This is the reason why we postponed the debate. However, on the 3rd of next month, we have scheduled an awareness program followed by a discussion with both government and opposition parliamentarians. This program will take place in the parliamentary complex. During this exercise, every parliamentarian will receive the chance to study this bill and present their ideas and point out the areas that need to be amended.
The Government Nursing Officers Association staged protests at 100 hospitals today. The protests were staged demanding authorities to issue a circular in line with the cabinet decision to resolve the issues of nurses. One protest was staged at the National Institute of Mental Health in Anguda. Nurses at the Kalubovila Teaching Hospital also staged the protest. Nurses at the Tangor Base Hospital staged a protest during their lunch break. This was how nurses at the Mirigama Base Hospital staged their demonstration without hampering healthcare services. Healthcare personnel at the Mathale General Hospital also joined the protests.
We put forth 9 demands. The President drew his attention towards these demands. The Health Minister submitted 2 cabinet papers on this. The cabinet paper on promotions has been approved. At the same time, the cabinet paper on the grading of officers was also approved. Both papers were presented to the Ministry of Local Government and the Public Services Commission. The Public Services Commission had granted their approval, but the Health Secretary hasn't taken steps to issue the relevant circular. We will give the Health Ministry and the government 1 week to resolve this. We will then hold discussions on conducting a trade union action after that.
වැඩවර්ධන තීන්දුවක් ගන්න සාකච්ඡා කරනවා.
The Employed Graduates Association and the Development Officers Service Union staged a protest in Anuradhapura today. The protesters are demanding the absorption of qualified graduates for existing vacancies, the certification of full pension entitlement by letter of appointment, and implementation of the proposals submitted to the Development Service Constitution.
Farmers staged several protests today as well, demanding a solution to the fertilizer crisis. Farmers of the Maspanna Agrarian Services Division in Uvaparnagama engaged in a protest march from the Viharagoda Junction to the Maspanna Agrarian Services Centre. We don't have fertilizer or urea. This has made our crops turn yellow. The government is making false claims on television. We are the farmers in the front line. None of these farmers have received a single seed or concessionary fertilizer through this Agrarian Services Centre. Another group of farmers in the Maspanna area held a protest march from the Kalaniya Junction to the Maspanna town. The group also handed over a letter to the Maspanda Agrarian Services Centre demanding solutions to their grievances. Meanwhile, the All Ceylon Farmers Federation organised a protest which was held at a paddy field which fell victim to pests due to the lack of fertilizer in the Yakdesawa area in Galle. The farmers set fire to the paddy field which had fallen victim to pests.
We can't even afford a sip of porridge. We have 3 children, and how do we sustain them? We survive from this paddy field. How do we live now? We have nothing to do.
If we had fertilizer, these crops would not be destroyed. When they come begging for votes, they say that they will provide us fertilizer, fuel, elephants, tigers and anything we want. All our crops have died. These farmers have paid significant amounts to cultivate these fields. The smoke you see is from the burning fields. Imagine the amount of sorrow that must be felt in a farmer's heart to burn the field they committed so much to. Please compensate these farmers fully for their losses.
Minister of Agriculture Mahendran Alutgamage is currently touring the country under the Saubhagya Sustainable Agriculture Program to inquire into problems faced by farming communities. The following debate ensued at the North Central Provincial Council Auditorium in Anuradhapura when the minister met with farmers of the area yesterday.
There are nearly 9,000 to 10,000 kidney patients in the area. Take a look at the amount of people who are suffering from cancer. Many people from the North Central Province suffer from ailments such as diabetes. We do not want to see our farmers losing their kidneys. We do not want to see them suffer from a cancer. We also don't want to see an 8-year-old suffering from diabetes.
We do not know if either a university or a laboratory has clinically proven the use of chemical fertilizer gives rise to kidney disease or cancer.
The person who you appointed through your vote, who is now the State Minister of Health, has a postgraduate degree on the detrimental effects of chemical fertilizer and pesticides on one's kidneys. We have no need to deceive the people on chemical fertilizer and promote organic fertilizer.
If that is the case, we must assess the quality of dal imported to the island. We should also measure the quality of milk powder imported to the country. The quality of the flavouring imported to manufacture biscuits should also be assessed. We would like to request the GMOA to measure that quality as well.
The Minister of Agriculture expressed these views at the District Secretariat in Trincomalee today.
We are at loggerheads with the 3rd largest industry in the world. We send 100 billion rupees overseas every year to import fertilizer from the white man. When we are engaged in such a struggle, if such organizations spend 1 billion rupees from the 100 billion we spend and distribute it among farmers' organizations, political parties and TV channels, we know what will transpire. That has been done now. I want to regretfully note a Pradesh Sabha member of a certain political party in Polonnaruwa has questioned when a farmer dies of kidney disease whether his death certificate mentions he died through the use of chemical fertilizer. Politics in the country has stooped to such low levels.
Now moving on, the total number of COVID-19 cases in the country has exceeded 300,000. 1,380 cases have been reported so far today, increasing the total number of cases since the beginning of the pandemic to 301,272. Meanwhile, 1,499 COVID-19 patients recovered today. Authorities confirmed 63 COVID-19 deaths for Tuesday, the 27th of July.
COVID vaccination.
The Health Ministry has announced that 728,460 doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine will arrive in the country on Saturday afternoon. This stock of vaccines has been donated by Japan under the COVAX facility. The Health Ministry has announced that the 490,000 people expecting their second dose of the AstraZeneca vaccine will be prioritized when distributing this stock.
What is the status of the Delta COVID variant?
Meanwhile, the World Health Organization has warned again that the Delta variant of the COVID-19 virus is more transmissible than the other variants.
And what we need to look at is our actions have consequences. This is true everywhere in the world, and it depends on the circulation of the virus around you. The Delta variant is a dangerous virus. It is more transmissible than the Alpha variant, which was extremely transmissible across Europe, across any country that it entered. The Delta variant is even more transmissible. We are seeing trajectories of incidents that are almost vertical in a number of countries around the world. Europe and many countries are seeing a decline in cases, but there are a lot of events that are occurring across the region, whether these are large events related to sporting events or religious events or even backyard barbecues. All of these actions have consequences, and the Delta variant is spreading readily among people who are unvaccinated.
It has been reported now that there has been an increase in the spread of the Delta variant. Whilst the number of COVID-19 cases is increasing, the number of Delta variant cases within that number is also increasing. There is a significant increase in cases in the Western province, and the public need to pay heed to this. Meanwhile, the United States has announced that even those who have been fully vaccinated against COVID-19 should wear masks in public places. The US Center for Disease Control notes that it is mandatory for school children and teachers to wear masks regardless of their vaccination status. The spread of the Delta variant has led to an increased number of cases in the United States as well, with 59,166 cases being reported in the past 24 hours.
Meanwhile, the Tourism Development Authority, the Tourism Promotion Bureau, tour operators and airlines have decided to implement a joint promotion program to attract tourists to Sri Lanka. This special promotion program will be implemented from the 1st of August. During a discussion chaired by Subject Minister Prasanna Ranatunga yesterday, attention was drawn to the strategic plans deemed necessary to formulate relief packages that can be provided to hotels, airlines and tour operators. Due to the COVID situation in the country, passengers from 21 countries were banned from travelling to Sri Lanka. The Ministry of Tourism is to work together with the Foreign Ministry on removing the restrictions imposed on tourists from these countries visiting Sri Lanka. The proposed plan to bring tourists from Russia was elaborated on at a press conference held yesterday.
In Russia, today less than 20% of people are vaccinated. They do not want to receive it. The Russian government is now forcing them to get it. They say that it is a normal fever and there is nothing to worry about. Many of them have developed immunity and do not need to get inoculated because the antibodies are inside the body. If only 20% of the country has been vaccinated, how can we fill a flight with 100% vaccinated people? It's difficult. Today, Sri Lankan Airlines has answered the call to go forward with a national mission to bring Russian tourists on the 31st of August this week. The first flight arrives at 6 a.m. on the 1st of August. 4 flights will return to Sri Lanka each week. With an average of 250 on a single flight, we can bring in about 1,000 Russian tourists a week. I think that is a good start.
රුසියානු සංචාරකයන් 1000ක් විතර ගේන්න පුළුවන්. ඒක හොඳ ආරම්භයක් කියලා හිතනවා.
Up next is Crime Watch.
A person was attacked at the Kohula junction on the 15th of this month. The person was attacked after being dragged out of a vehicle by a group with sharp weapons. Police said the attack was a result of a personal dispute. 5 suspects were arrested by the Kohula police in connection to the incident and are to be produced in court.
Now the Sri Lanka Freedom Party launched a trade union bureau today. SLFP chairman Maithripala Sirisena was appointed to head the new body.
Senior members of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party and trade union leaders were present during the launch of the new bureau at the party headquarters in Colombo. The bureau aims to establish and build relationships between the party and trade unions from various sectors, including the Sri Lanka Nidahas Sevaka Sangamaya. The Sri Lanka Freedom Party said that the bureau was set up on an existing proposal by the late Dr. N.M. Pereira.
As far as I know, no government has formulated a long-term plan for the country's development and economic development. All governments have gone for an election 5 years after coming to power. Therefore, they have prepared 3-year or 5-year plans. But in developed countries, long-term plans have been formulated targeting the next 25, 30 or 50 years. No government in our country has been able to achieve a national consensus. Although policies and plans have been prepared, we cannot achieve success through it if there is no national consensus. Although governments change in countries such as India, their highly powerful commissions, policies and plans don't change. If there is no agreement on a national level, a government won't be able to continue the good done by its predecessor. They will disregard that. Instead of blaming the past, it is important to enter into a new work plan to uplift the country. Just as we are supporting the government, the Sri Lanka Freedom Party will strengthen the country.
අපි රටේ ශක්තිමත් කරන පක්ෂය වර්තමාන ජනාධිපතිතුමා ඔබතුමාලා හමු වුණා සාර්ථක වුණාද සාකච්ඡා මොන වගේ අපි එයිදී රටේ පවතින
We discussed matters revolving around the country's current situation, political climate, and the implementation of agreements reached by the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna and the Sri Lanka Freedom Party before the election.
මන්දේ ඒ කියන කරුණු අපි සාකච්ඡා කළා.
නිදහස් පක්ෂයේ සාමික විශාල පිරිසක් බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන ඔබතුමා යලිත් වරක් ජනාධිපතිවරයෙක් ඉදිරිපත් කියලා ඒක ඔබතුමාගේ අදහස කොහොමද?
දැන් ජනාධිපති අපේක්ෂක හුඟක් ඉන්නවනේ ඒක නිසා අපි ඒගොල්ලන්ට තැනක් දෙන්න ඕගොල්ලෝ.
The former Minister Harin Fernando was summoned to the Criminal Investigations Department today. The former minister said he provided a statement over the 2019 April 21st attacks for a period of nearly 5 hours.
The Samagi Janabalavega's Vice Chairman, former Minister Harin Fernando, appeared at the Criminal Investigations Department this morning. He was accompanied by party leader and opposition leader Sajid Premadasa.
Stop the witch hunt against parliamentarians. Let us unite and take the relevant legal measures to hunt down all those linked to the April 21st attacks. Let us find out the masterminds. Why does the Cardinal continue to complain against this? That is because the government has failed to fulfill their responsibility towards the people. There are no ICU beds to treat COVID-19 cases. We don't know whether they are reducing PCR tests intentionally. Instead of focusing on addressing these matters, they are carrying out a witch hunt against Harin Fernando.
MB Harin Fernando left the Criminal Investigations Department after providing a statement for 5 hours.
I have provided statements 4 times over this matter. It did not contain anything important. The police questioned me for more than 5 hours to waste my time. I wish to tell Sarath Weerasekara that I am interested in discussing the statements I made in Parliament on the April 21st attacks on a television channel. I wish to challenge him for a discussion on a public platform instead of him utilizing the police to waste my time.
ප්‍රසිද්ධ විවාදයකට ඔබතුමා එන්න ඔබතුමා කැමති කෙනෙක් අරන් එන්න මමත් ඒකට කැමති කෙනෙක් අරගෙන එන්න අපිට තියෙන කරුණුත් එක්ක අපි සාකච්ඡා කරමු අපි රටක් ඇයිද බුද්ධිමත් සංවාදයක් කරමු.
Now 11 human rights groups have issued a joint statement seeking the release of lawyer Hejaz Hizbullah. Hizbullah has been held under the Prevention of Terrorism Act.
11 human rights groups have called for the immediate release of lawyer Hejaz Hizbullah and for the charges against him to be dropped. In a statement, they pointed out that Hizbullah had been repeatedly denied the right to access his family or counsel, which is contrary to international law. The statement reads that the detention of Hizbullah, who was arrested under the Prevention of Terrorism Act, has been extended more than 15 times. It added that many people detained under the Prevention of Terrorism Act have been allegedly tortured or ill-treated in custody. The human rights groups say the abuse of detainees is a violation of the right to liberty and a fair trial. Accordingly, they have urged the government to repeal the PTA and to provide remedies and reparations to those whose rights have been violated by it. Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch and the International Bar Association's Human Rights Initiative are amongst the 11 parties to the statement.
Now, the Alumni Association of the University of Colombo launched its 2nd annual online art competition last week.
The online art competition was named Creativity Uncontained 2021. The virtual art competition was held under 3 different themes inspired by current events and for different age groups. The association engaged with children and youth of Sri Lanka during the challenging times of the pandemic and sought their expressions on thematic issues of the environment, psychosocial aspects of digital transformation and the impact of cancer. More information can be obtained from the Alumni Association of University of Colombo Facebook page.
Hope for the future.
Gammatta, for the people, by the people, with the people.
Well, that's a wrap of your news for this evening. Thank you very much for joining us. On behalf of the News First team as well as interpreter Brian Cruz, I've been Deshan Gonawala. But don't forget, we leave you with the images of a child who had lost his sight and is now being treated to regain it. Have a great night.
During a Gammadda program, 13-year-old Jeevanta Ratnayaka from Kalugunlagama, Galle made a plea to restore his sight, and this appeal brought tears to the eyes of many. Rohita Rajapaksa, the son of Sri Lankan Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa, had come across a video clip with the boy making the request and brought it to the attention of his mother, the former First Lady. Former First Lady Shivanti Rajapaksa had made arrangements for the young boy to be treated by one of the leading ophthalmologists in Sri Lanka. Following many tests, the specialist ophthalmologist had ruled that Jeevanta's vision can be restored in one eye without a transplant. While all the expenses for the treatment were borne by the former First Lady, Jeevanta visited Temple Trees today to express his gratitude to the Prime Minister and Shivanti Rajapaksa for granting him an opportunity to see the world through his own eyes again.